Hello! So we're going to make some simple embellishments and borders using the templates. I'm joining Jeanette from Jeannie Linguini at the Girl Cave in this collaborative event. Yes, we're stepping back in time in the templates. Let's have a look what we can do with them. Okay, so our first process we're going to do with our template is to create a border, and I'm going to use our Fiskars template. I'm going to be using this particular one, which is quite ornate. You can see that it goes around the corners. So my plan is to put this border around the edge of my frame here. We're going to trace through this template to get the pattern that we want. We need to make sure that we have got it lined up in the right position, and luckily for us, Fiskars have got these templates gridded, so it's quite easy for us to line it up into the right position. I'm working on just a piece of old chipboard, and that is just so you can see it easier what I'm actually doing, so the white frame's showing up more than on my mat. The thing though is that this is designed for an A4 paper, so we have to work out how we can get it to fit our 12 by 12 page. To trace, I've selected this gorgeous Copic marker here, BG49, if you are interested in using the same color. It is a lovely teal, as you can see, and we're going to use the broad end, not the fine end. Okay, so we want the broad end. We're going to use the pen so it's facing down, so we get a fairly even width as we are drawing our pattern. So I'm going to start not here, but actually at this point here, the first curve on the border there, and I'm dragging my texture, my Copic marker, around the template. As the first mark, and then we can continue around the template to create our border. And I'm going to there. Beautiful. All right, so you need to repeat that on the other piece of paper as well. And then what we need to do is go back to where we started. We're going to pop that exactly in the right position where it should be. And we're lining up our grid line, so we're keeping our border even. We're going to scroll, we're going to trace through the template right there with our wide edge. Lovely. And then we're going to move it along. So if I look at this pattern, that is about in that position. So we're going to pick it up and we're going to move it along this way until we get that matched up there, and we're going to make sure that our border grid line is matching along there. Okay, to finish this border we need to actually flip and turn around our frame, and you'll notice that on the corner it has this point coming up, so we need to look at our template and we need to get that happening. So what we need to do is line up the template carefully with the grids. There we go, I've got my grid line matching with my paper. Now we have to stop when we get to there because we need it to travel on. So I'm just going to slide it along and match it up and make sure my grid line is level on the paper, and I'm going to keep going. There we go, and there's our first one done. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is, because there is a few areas that aren't that neat and I'm fussy, I'm going to use the fine tip and go along the edges of the border and just neaten some things up. So it's quite quick and easy. Just literally draw over that edge that we have traced. Right, we've got the two basic frames, and then the next step I'm going to do, just to embellish a bit more, is to use one of these white pens, which is a Uniball pen, Signo brand, if you're interested. Cost me $5.10 in Australia. So I'm going to put a thin white line along my border. If you don't have one of these pens, you could use a paint pen. So we've got our thin border here with the white highlight line through it, which just enhances it a little bit. Okay, I'm back again. Next step is to cut all your pieces for the background of the layout. So I've done that. I can't tell you the sizes. If you're interested, go and check out Alison Davis's sketch booklets on Scrapbook Generation. You can then move on to the next part, which is using our second template. So I'm using this old, which I think is a Stamp It template. And I've got these pieces left from my papers, and I will be using the backs and the fronts of both of these. So what we need to do is we're going to make some stylized peacock tails. So we're going to create 3 embellishments that are stylized representation of a fanned out peacock tail. So I'm going to start by using the large template. I'm going to make a big one and 2 medium-sized embellishments that we can use on our layout. So for the first one, we just need to trace on the large circle. Bring the pencil on. Easy peasy. Then we're going to use the next size down, which I'm calling medium. And this is for the first one, the big. And then we need a smaller one. So we're going for this one, which is slightly smaller. And I'm going to flip this over. And we're going to see if we can get one with this spot. And trace it around here. Okay, and then it's simply cutting them out. So I'm just going to hand cut with my scissors. Make sure you're turning the paper. Leave your scissors stationary, turn the paper. So the first thing you need to do is we're going to rough up the edges of our circle. This is especially useful if your circles weren't cut perfectly. But I'm actually doing it to create more texture. Now, I would use my distressing tool, only I can't find it. So I'm just using my nails. Some of you will be horrified with that, but you got to do what you got to do. Once you have your edges distressed, we are going to ink them. Now, this is optional. You don't have to ink them, but I just want them to stand out more. So I'm choosing Distress Ink Faded Jeans, Distress Ink Peacock Feathers, that's appropriate, and Distress Ink Peeled Paint for my green. Okay. There we go. All right, that's step 2. Next step is folding our circles. Now we could get really technical and measure and rule it up, but that takes too much time and I can't be bothered. So what I am doing is we're just going to straight fold them to get our cutting lines. So we're going to fold it in half, like so. Crease it, unfold it, fold it in half again. Crease it again. There we go. Unfold it. Right, so we should be able to now fold it into 1/4 of the circle, and then you're going to fold it one more time. Now it's a little bit thicker now, so you have to be a bit careful when you're doing this bit. And we want a nice crease there because we are going to cut along these crease lines. So then we're unfolding it. And we're going to cut these lines. Doesn't matter which side you cut on. I'm going to cut on this side because it's actually easier to see. So I'm cutting through here. We're just going to cut it into the little sections, and you should end up with 8 pieces. There. That's one. You need to do that for each of your circles. Okay, so I've cut up my circles. So there's my larger one, my medium one, and my small one. And then what I'm going to do is distress and ink the edges. You don't have to do this, it's optional. If you want to do it, if you're not into inking or distressing, just use your pie pieces as they are. Okay, so I've got my pie pieces cut, I've distressed the edges and I've inked them up, and I'm ready to construct my stylized peacock tail embellishment. So what I'm going to do to make it a bit easier is I'm just going to draw a straight line on this bit of card just to keep us on track. We're going to put one peacock feather there, that's what I'm calling them from now on, and then we're going to do a little space. We're just going to place them like this. We're going to place one there, just using a little space. I'm going to place one there. I'm going to place one there. Now, we're going to place one there. We're going to place one there, and now we're going to stop. So that's like the base of our peacock feather tail. And then we're going to use the next size up of our pies or our peacock feathers. And now we're going to put some tape on the back of them as we go to help fix it all together. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tape on. You could do double-sided foam if you want to. I'm choosing not to do that. And I'm placing them in between the other ones. I've got one going here. Next one. And so on. And then we're going with our third layer with the small ones. It's looking pretty funky, I like it. Now you're probably thinking that they're not fixed together very well, and that is correct. They are not. This is just to hold it in place to start with, and then we will go and add some more adhesive to the back. Okay, so then you're going to carefully flip it over and we're going to fix it together with more tape. And there we have it. There's our little stylized peacock tail embellishment. And I'll show you what it looks like when we put it all together on our layout. Okay, so the next bit is we're going to use these other pieces of our big circle that we had, and we're going to do a double layer here just to make it a little bit more interesting. And we're going to put a little bit of double-sided tape between these so it sits up a little bit higher than it is. If you want, you could flip it and use your other color behind it, or you could cut your two big circles a different color and go a completely different color at the back. And it's just to make it a little bit more interesting. You could, if you want, pop them through here in between these spaces. Lots of options. I'm going to put a second layer at the top of each. Okay, we're ready to put our layout together. So we've got our lovely, fun, funky, stylized peacock tail feathers. We've got our borders, which we created with our Fiskars template and some Copic markers. And now we're going to actually put all our pieces together to create our layout. Let's do it. So I've put my background papers in and I've attached my photos on both pages. And the other thing I've done is Alison Davis has stitching on her layout, but I've just used my white pen and hand drawn in the stitching there. And now I'm moving on to doing the embellishments using our peacock tail embellishments that we made. What I'm thinking is, given that I've got 3 of these, that I'm going to go smaller one at the top here and the larger one down in this corner, and the third one will go onto the second page of the double page layout. But I also had all these lovely embellishments from Vicki Boutin, so I'm going to incorporate those as well. And I'm going to use this Hello Beautiful as my title.